We're thundering towards the MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship. It's our first round of 7 for 2025 for Mission King of the Baggers. We're at the World Center of Racing in Daytona Beach, Florida at Daytona International Speedway. As race 2 is on deck, they're going to hit the high banks. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the broadcast. Welcome to the broadcast booth. I'm Greg White, standing alongside two-time national champ Jason Pridmore. Now, Jason, we thought Kyle Wyman had a chance of winning the race yesterday. He did, but what went on behind him was pretty crazy. Yeah, in a class that we've seen a lack of attrition in the last couple of years, there was a lot of attrition yesterday, and sadly, a lot of that had to do with the factory Indian team. As you see, James Rispoli and Loris Baz get together off the start in turn 1. Both riders are okay. As you see, Rispoli checked on Baz. Checking in with both of them last night, Greg. They're both going to be ready to go today. But we had some pretty big battles out there. But then the second factory Indian, Tyler O'Hara, had a small problem, but this was the big one. Our defending champion, Troy Herfoss, tipped over in turn 6. However, he would finish 8th in the race by picking that bike up and soldiering on. The battle came down between Bradley Smith and Cam Peterson. Bradley Smith has never been here before, but you wouldn't know it. He played a fun game here with Cam Peterson, and on that draft back from chicane to the start-finish line, Bradley Smith was able to make it a Harley-Davidson factory 1-2 as his teammate Kyle Wyman had disappeared into the distance. His 19th career win in Mission King of the Baggers. But as we take a look at the numbers between Troy Herfoss and Kyle Wyman, we had 18 races last year, 14 this year. That's a 100-point difference in terms of total points being able to get accumulated. Only 11 points the difference between 1 and 2 in the championship last year. So Troy Herfoss, the fact that he picked that bike up and finished this race could prove pivotal at the end of the season when we get to New Jersey. But it's all about Daytona International Speedway, Jay, and these high banks. Yeah, we start from pit lane, Greg. Very unique feature here at Daytona. Get down to that International Horseshoe, turn 3, fast kink, turn 4. By the time you go through turn 6, you're wide open to the chicane. And then as you saw yesterday with Bradley Smith and Cam Peterson, that run from the chicane to the start-finish line is very pivotal here at Daytona. And speaking of Cam Peterson, how about an instant 360 look at this rider as he goes up onto the high banks? Listen and look at the lean angle they have on the banking. We're going to have race action coming up after this.
We stay with you here on MotoAmerica Live Plus for Mission King of the Baggers. As you see the bikes coming around after that siding lap, Roger, there's number 33, Kyle Wyman, won the race yesterday. Commanding fashion, took the pole as well. And for Kyle, he did not go out this morning in the warm-up because he's feeling under the weather. How big of a challenge is this?
I think it's a challenge. He has not seen the track since the race yesterday, and feeling bad, and it's hot and humid out there, so not ideal. But I think for Kyle, once the lights go out, it's kind of like riding with an injury. He's going to be able to put it behind him.
Troy Herfoss there, you see alongside him with that number 1 plate, and then that number 76 of Loris Baz, another one of the injured riders that we've been following today after that incident between himself and James Rispoli there that you see the number 43 bike. That was a big one to get that race started, and for Loris, he's just going to have to ride through it.
He's going to have to ride through it and just try to get through the first turn. It's so important for Loris to get his first race under his belt.
All right, as we get closer and closer to racing, we're going to send it back over to Greg White and Jason Pridmore.
Mission King of the Baggers coverage is brought to you by Mission Foods, the world's leading brand for tortillas and wraps. Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series. Drag Specialties, an industry-leading distributor of aftermarket parts and accessories for Harley-Davidson, Indian, and custom V-twin motorcycles. And by NXT Bets. Play MotoAmerica for cash. Multiple race classes live on Top Sportsbook and DFS platforms all season long.
Riders out on the warm-up lap for 8 laps scheduled in this Mission King of the Baggers. Gives us an opportunity to take a look at this starting grid. Kyle Wyman, Troy Herfoss, and Loris Baz on the front row. And then we're going to have Bradley Smith, James Rispoli, and Tyler O'Hara. Rounding row number 2 there, Hayden Gillum, Cam Peterson, Rocco Landers, Owen Sorg, Jake Lewis, and Corey West. And Max Flinders. All right, and Jay, you know, we know that Loris Baz had a crash with James Rispoli yesterday. Not sure if you saw what he was able to post on his Instagram.
I did, and it looked like he was looked like an elbow possibly. As you get a good look at Loris here, this was yesterday, really a bummer. And you see he fell hard on that left arm, and I'm assuming it was his left elbow, Greg, that split open. There you go. So he went and got some stitches in that bad boy. I texted him a little bit last night, and he didn't seem too bad, so that was good. And he was out there this morning in warm-up.
Yeah.
Doesn't look comfortable there, though, does he?
No, I'm sure that when you cut wide open like that, especially at a sensitive point with the elbows bent, but he's soldiering on. He's back out there getting after it from the front row. And Jay, you mentioned it, just a little bit. Oh, it looks like Cam Peterson.
Yep.
Cam Peterson's having an issue off of a podium yesterday for the SDI performance bike. That is a huge bummer for Cam P.
Yeah, he's definitely pulling it over. He's asking where he can pull into, so he's pulling off, and the rest of the field has gone around. So that is a bummer. And you know, Greg, we saw an unusual amount of attrition yesterday. We haven't seen that much attrition in the King of the Baggers last year. We both made comments to each other at the end of the year that it's really nice seeing all the bikes finish. And yesterday we just had some problems, and we had crashes, but I think that also shows the intensity of which this class has become now, as we see a future possible bagger racer there in the infield. But you know, today for me, look, I don't even think about the championship right now because we got a lot of rounds to go. But that said, I think that Indian needs to do what they can because this man here has dominated the weekend. So we'll see if Indian can bounce back from the troubles they had yesterday.
The grid is set. Riders have done their warm-up lap, and now it's time to get after this 8-lap affair for Mission King of the Baggers, race number 2. With your pole sitter, the 33, Kyle Wyman, after a big one yesterday. Who's going to get the jump into turn number 1? Baz, right part of your screen, looking for a cleaner turn number 1. See if you can get through it. Here we go when the lights go off. Clutches are out. We're rolling. Here's turn number 1. It's a left turn. Kyle Wyman bends it in. Loris Baz looking for some room on his teammate. And Baz looking for some traction. He stands it up.
Rispoli went up underneath him there. As you know, you got to remember, this is Loris's first time to Daytona, and that turn 1 is really, really different. So you've got Kyle Wyman up front. Look at Herfoss trying to go around the outside. I wonder if almost thought Kyle had a problem there for a second as they both come accelerating out of that International Horseshoe. You have got this factory Indian now leads as Troy Herfoss rode around the outside of Kyle Wyman in the Horseshoe. So Greg, also Wyman comes into this race. He did not go out for warm-up this morning. He's got a tick of the flu or something. Wasn't feeling his best. But this is what you'd expect from Troy Herfoss, isn't it? After having the issue yesterday, this guy won the championship with grit last year, and he's leading it again right now. They're leading this race. They head up onto the banking.
As the number 1 SNS Indian motorcycle, that's on a Challenger. Troy Herfoss goes onto the banking. Kyle Wyman on the 33 on that Harley-Davidson Dyno Jet factory racing machine in tow. And we're going to see how these two American Iron machines face up on the high banks of Daytona. And Kyle goes underneath in the draft. They're side by side as they head towards the chicane. Kyle will have the nod. Now it's a braking duel. As you can see, there's a flag waving for debris.
Flag, yeah. I wonder what that's from.
That probably Cam Peterson and his bike would be, probably my guess.
Yep.
That Cam had to park that bike at the beginning of the race. And there's Corey West. We know that unfortunately for Max Flinders and his crew, not able to make it looks like he's out there, Max Flinders.
Yeah, we heard word that he might not be out there for this race, so we'll have to keep an eye on that one.
Oh, no, he didn't make it out there.
The two factory Harley-Davidsons of Rispoli and Bradley Smith, they're in 3rd and 4th. As they all come across, we have got basically the field. You can see there's about 6 bikes all fighting. We got all the factory Indians and all the factory Harleys.
Oh, Bradley Smith!
Bradley Smith tips off. Finished 2nd yesterday. So for Bradley, that's a real shame. That's a shame, Greg. He got into turn 1 with these guys, got about halfway through the turn and just lightly lost the front. Now, again, he's got to kind of do what Herfoss did. He's got to get up, assess the damage, try to get back out there the best he can, and just try to pick up some points. As you see here, Greg, here's a replay. He's just to the outside, and he's going to just get to a point where that front end just started to fold. And the thing is about these bikes, Greg, is once the front end folds, the ground clearance even gets worse because they got the bags on the side, and it makes it almost impossible to save.
So a bummer for him. And yes, Max Flinders did not start the race, as we were told earlier He had mechanical problems, and the team just couldn't get it fixed in time. So don't worry, folks, the 88 will be back. But this race, to these two, these were the two that were locked in the championship battle. Troy Herfoss, Kyle Wyman. Wyman in the draft again as you have a look at that Motul weather. Beautiful, 72 degrees. Not a ton of wind either, so this is all racing as Kyle takes over the lead from Herfoss, and there's Rispoli hunting right behind him as well. Tyler O'Hara in the mix as well. Let's get down to the third member of our broadcast team, Hannah Lopa.
I talked to Troy Herfoss ahead of the weekend. He said it's a little bit different of a feel coming into the Daytona weekend compared to last year. Last year he was the new guy. He felt like Kyle was the guy. There was not a lot of expectations for him to perform well. So 2 second-place finishes coming off the weekend seemed like a job well done, a great report card. But he said he was kicking himself because he knew that he made mistakes that a racer of his caliber he felt should not be making. So coming into this weekend, he says, you know, I'm not the new guy anymore. I've got the #1 plate on the front of this, and I've really got something to prove. There's expectations other people are setting for me and that I've set for myself. So after yesterday's tip-off, I know he was really kicking himself overnight. This race, I'm sure he's going to be a fierce competitor, but he may be a little bit more tentative. It is early days, but he's got some points to make up after yesterday.
You can see a little further back, Hannah, Rocco Landers in that group that also is with Kyle Onsorg. They've lost a little bit of ground, as you can see here. They've lost some ground. I think that for these guys here, it's grab as many points as we can as you get a look at Onsorg and Hayden Gillum. Let's grab as many points as we can. Let's get out of Daytona and then go race some of these other tracks. So for Rocco Landers, don't think for a second this guy has given up on trying to get back into that draft of that leading 5 riders, but you can see that bike moving around as we come up on the banking again. Herfoss leads him up onto the banking, and
where'd O'Hara go?
Kyle Wyman, he's still back there. Yep, he's still back there, but they've just, these front 4 have just pulled a little bit away from Tyler O'Hara, who told me yesterday, Greg, that he just had a couple little issues with the bike that he was trying to sort out during the race, and he got that sorted. So now we got a little bit of a breakaway of 4 riders, 2 factory Indians, obviously, and sandwiched in between them are the 2 factory Harley-Davidsons of Wyman and Rispoli.
First full lap goes to Loris Baz, 150.422, fastest lap of the race. And oh, by the way, play MotoAmerica for cash. Baggers and Supersport Series are now live on top Sportbook and DFS platforms. Scan the flow code or visit nxtbets.com/PlayMA to see what's available in your location. Sign up, claim exclusive bonuses, and make your picks now. All right, so into turn 1 we go with 5 laps remaining in this race. #1, Troy Herfoss to the top of the pile. It closes up after that draft and pass, but then it starts to separate through the infield. Rispoli continues, as we've seen from last year, a little bit loose, Jay, on the exit of corners.
What I'm liking, though, out of James that we've seen in the past is it looks like there's always a lot of franticness. And even though we're still seeing a little bit of movement from him on the exits, the entries to these corners now for Rispoli look a lot smoother, although as I say that, it gets a little bit sideways on him. But again, I think he looks a lot smoother on this bike right now. They've been toying with seat heights and things on the Harley for James, and they've come to find a few things that seem to work for him a little bit better. So these guys have been working a lot as far as testing goes and trying to get their product even better right now. And you can see the front 3 guys are just starting to creep away from Loris Baz. Baz is going to do everything he can to get in behind that big windscreen. Rispoli right now should get a pretty solid double bike draft that will pull him further ahead of Baz. But right now, it's kind of starting to turn into a 3-rider race. Baz, if he's not careful, as they come out of the chicane, he does a nice job of pulling up on the back of these guys, but he's got to do something special. Look at how good Loris went through the middle of that chicane. He was able to get that big Indian tighter in the middle of it and close that gap. Now he's going to get the benefit of the draft, but I feared he was starting to lose it.
For Loris Baz, he's still learning the track. This is his first time circulating Daytona on the high banks, albeit on a bagger. And he said the banking itself wasn't actually the challenge. It's figuring out the infield. He's really happy to be joining the team this season. It's really well established. They have a great routine, so he feels comfortable and confident. He also has Scott Jensen as his crew chief, who was his crew chief in 21, his first season in MotoAmerica. So slowly getting up to speed here is Loris Baz, finally his first race opportunity.
That's a great point, too. Having a familiar crew chief with you is going to minimize the learning curve as well, as Rispoli now goes fastest lap of the race, 150.316. But Baz seems to be losing a little bit when they get on drive onto the banking. He's able to make it up under the brakes. Loris Baz right now, the Frenchman, very impressive performance.
And you know, most tracks that we go to, Greg, I would tell you that there's never really a home track advantage. However, at this place, there's more than just the track that you have to learn. You have to learn how to race around this place. And you know, one of the very famous quotes I used to hear all the time about Scott Russell, 5-time Daytona 200 winner, was that it was almost like he was able to see the air around here, you know, and how it circulates and how it goes around. And I think that, you know, is that Rispoli?
Yeah, James Rispoli
has gone down in turn number 6. So that's going to be as he's running over to the bike to get it upright. That's a bummer. So now there are 3 at the front. But getting back to close that piece for Baz, it's his first time here, and now he's learning how to race it. And without getting those laps yesterday, this is all kind of new to him as well, but he's up there with the leaders.
Track worker is going to help Rispoli remount and get going. Hopefully Rispoli can score some points if that bike is rideable. Sans the bag. That might be pulling on the banking a little bit, but left part of your screen is the race as Rispoli continues, and it looks like he's not going to be able to. So the 33-year-old out of this race, lost the front, and that'll be it for him until the next one. But back up front we go, the number 1 in the slipstream. Is he going to be able to get past Kyle Wyman? He doesn't, so Herfoss will sit there behind Kyle into the infield section.
And now we're going to see what Kyle has. He hasn't really led through the infield since he got that start. So now we're going to see what Kyle's capable of doing through this infield as we get another look at Rispoli. And you can see Greg again, he just tucks it a little bit. And then the second that front goes, that bag is going to be probably one of the next things to hit. He wanted to run over, and you can see the disappointment there. 2 non-finishes at Daytona for James. That's a shame. But now you're going to get to see what this is all about up front. Look at Wyman putting his head down, trying to make a break through this infield. And yesterday, Greg, I felt like he was a little better in the infield, and it was putting a little bit of pressure on Troy. And we saw Troy slide off in this next turn, but you can see here the lap looks a little bit easier for Kyle right now than it does for Troy, and just through this infield part at least.
For Baz, just losing that touch with Rispoli being gone. Doesn't look like Baz has been so much coming onto the banking. Jay, it was 2 corners ago for Kyle Wyman. He was able to get that motorcycle turned. That Harley-Davidson really carved the corner, and he was able to get it upright, superbike style, and get on the meat of the tire and pull the trigger. So on that Harley-Davidson, like Dyno Jet Factory Racing Road Glide, a little bit to make up on the brakes for the number 1, Troy Herfoss, on the SES Indian motorcycle. So these two, the class of the field last year, and as we can see, it continues this year.
Herfoss does a good job of getting through the chicane because he didn't really gain a ton on that back straightaway. But boy, did he do a nice job getting in and out of the chicane, and he's in a spot now where he's going to be able to draft past this to Harley-Davidson as they get into this tri-oval area. You're going to see him duck out to the right of Kyle Wyman, go past him on the high side. And so when you look at it, that's the fastest lap of the race at a 50 flat. And the time difference in the first split, Greg, was some 0.6 of a second. That's how much quicker Kyle Wyman was to Herfoss in the first split. And you can see what that lap time has done. That has separated them now from Baz, who that lap ran at 51.2. So he was 1.2 seconds slower. And look, they're again a little bit wide for Troy in that International Horseshoe.
I've noticed that the left side of his bike, he has something that's dangling over there.
Right?
It doesn't look like it's much of anything. Something perhaps rubber, but doesn't seem to be affecting Herfoss. Watch when he comes through this left-hander, Jay. You can see it flopping right there.
Yeah, it's hard for me to see that one, but we'll have a look when he goes back through. So these two guys are really, really familiar with each other. They always seem to race each other really fair, really clean, which is going to be fun. Now it's a matter of, you know, Kyle put his head down the best he could through that infield split. It was the fastest split for him. I'll tell you who's got the fastest split in the first sector period is Rocco Landers. So Rocco Landers actually has the fastest first split of anybody, and he's done it again this lap as well. He's got back-to-back fastest first splits.
Yeah, but it's hard because Herfoss set the fastest lap of the race last time by at a 150.083, as you can see right there. So he's really turning the screws on Kyle Wyman, who's right there. And at this point, Kyle's experience, these two faced off here with Troy Herfoss's first race on the bagger in the United States. And so Troy's had it done to him twice, but Kyle knows what he needs to do. So as we go to 1 lap to go, we'll see what these two veterans have in store for us.
Yeah, Troy's almost got to feel just a little bit snake bit at this place with the 2 results last year when he looked like he was so close to doing the double. And then obviously having yesterday's issues as Kyle Wyman on the white flag goes to the high side as they go down into turn 1. Is he going to be able to do anything? He is not. So that was a little bit of a test run. Now, Troy Herfoss is in exactly the same spot he was in last year of trying to figure out how he's going to handle this situation, because it looks like Kyle is pretty comfortable sitting on the back of the number 1 for now. And if we remember last year in the second race, Troy had a big enough gap as they came out of the chicane or up. Here we go again, right?
Yeah, but Loris Baz.
Look at, now they're brake checking each other. So Baz could get a double bike draft all the way to the line. These guys don't. Let's see if Kyle has a look back here to see what happens as they go through here, because now he's going to have a big number 76. There it is.
Yeah.
So now Kyle knows. So now the psychology between all 3 of these guys is going to be really interesting. And Baz, all he wants to do is get in that draft and up down the back straightaway where he can stay there. Like,
Herfoss spins it. Now Baz doesn't really have the drive to get it done. So Kyle's like, I'm done messing around. Let me see if I can lead this again. If I can win this from the front. This is Daytona. Being in the lead bike doesn't always pay off. It can, but it doesn't always. So Kyle Wyman's like, playtime's over, let's go to the chicane. Now Kyle's got to have the perfect run through the chicane and get out of there as fast as possible. All the while, there's Loris Baz. Ooh, Kyle with a little bobble. He gets a good drive out of there. And Jay, what do you think?
I think Troy's in the catbird seat this time, and I think he's going to have no problem drafting past Kyle. They're going to be hitting top gear right about now, and he's going to be getting sucked into the draft pretty violently at this moment, and you're going to see him pull to the right side of Kyle Wyman. Is he going to be able to do anything?
Here they go to the stripe. They come. Wyman turns it left and wins the race by 56 thousandths of a second. And Herfoss thought he had timed it perfectly. But what a run out of the chicane for Kyle Wyman, who takes victory.
Did you see Troy just shaking his head?
Yeah.
Like, I thought I had it right this time, you know, but just super frustrating for him. But what a job from Kyle Wyman. You know, when you decide that you're going to go into that chicane leading, by the time you're off that turn 2 or turn 1 banking, you've got to be thinking to yourself, I'm just going to lead this into the chicane and just do whatever I can. And Kyle cleaned it.
Yeah, and he deserves that fist pump because that was a good performance. He was done messing around. He gets the job done. And look at that race pace, a 150.2 on lap number 5. And able to get it done on the back of a 52 flat after those two started messing around. Wow. So Kyle Wyman, Troy Herfoss, and Loris Baz. Congratulations to Loris Baz coming off of a huge crash. So Kyle Wyman's going to celebrate this one when we get back. We're going to talk to him and find out how he was able to hold off the number 1.
Celebration shot from that Harley-Davidson by Dynojet Factory Racing Team down there on pit lane. We stay with you here on MotoAmerica Live Plus. Steve English joining us back into the booth right now as we're now at the end of the racing here as part of the Daytona 200. Steve, when you go back home, what are your biggest takeaways from MotoAmerica this weekend?
Well, we've been able to see great racing all the way through, and everyone making steps all the way through the weekend as well. It was good to see because we ended up with such changing conditions all the way through the weekend, whether it was from our first practice on Thursday or all the way through to the rain delay there in the 200. But at the end of the day, we've been able to see great racing, and it looks like the season's set to be very good, especially in that super sport class. When you take Josh Herron out of the factor for that, he'll be on a super bike. When you look at the riders that'll come back for round 1 at Barber, it does look like that class is going to be strong all year.
One of the things you said on Thursday before any on-track action started was you were really looking forward to watching this Mission King of the Baggers action. What did you think?
Yeah, I was keen to see what they're like as much as anything else out on track and talk to the riders, have a good close look at the bikes, and they're very different to what I expected them to be. And obviously here on the oval with the banking and the draft, we're able to see close racing all the way through.
Well, it's great to have you here this weekend. You're an incredible team player. Wish you the best of luck for the rest of the racing season. Hopefully we can get you back at some point in time.
Yeah, hopefully. But it's been a lot of fun here this weekend. Good fun working with both of you.
All right, Roger, very quickly, as we get ready now to move on to Barber, what's your biggest takeaway?
The biggest takeaway is just a lot of the young riders moving up is already making impressions in the classes. And last year the bar was raised really high, and it looks like the bar has been raised again this season.
No, there's an incredible group of competitors that have come out to play this season and cannot wait to get all of the classes started over the next couple of races. Barber Motorsports Park will be next. But for now, let's wrap up Mission King of the Baggers. Here are Greg and Jason.
Mission King of the Baggers coverage is brought to you by Mission Foods, the world's leading brand for tortillas and wraps. Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series. Drag Specialties, an industry-leading distributor of aftermarket parts and accessories for Harley-Davidson, Indian, and custom V-twin motorcycles. And by NXT Bets. Play MotoAmerica for cash. Multiple race classes live on Top Sportsbook and DFS platforms all season long.
Welcome back. Kyle Wyman with the victory. 0.056 of a second over Troy Herfoss. Thank you, Daytona. We love those race finishes. And how about Loris Baz with his podium, his first in Mission King of the Baggers. Tyler O'Hara, Rocco Landers in fifth, just ahead of his teammate Hayden Gillum, Owen Sorg, Jake Lewis, Corey West, and Bradley Smith. Well, it's time to sweep. That's the thing for swept. Yeah, you get it. You won the two. So, and the two last year. So, yeah, definitely a sweep in victory lane for Kyle Wyman. And Hannah's down with him right now.
A perfect weekend for Kyle Wyman, from pole to winning the challenge. He does the double for his 5th consecutive win here at Daytona. Kyle, it was a real nail biter at the end there. How'd you get it done?
Checkmate. You know, that's pretty much it. It's such a game up here. I love this place. Man, there's no better place in the world than right here at Daytona in Victory Lane. This is for all you guys up here. Harley-Davidson Factory Racing, Dyno Jet, Rockford Fosgate, Mission Foods. There's so many people to thank, and that one feels pretty good. So let's keep it going. Woo, I love this place.
Big congrats to Kyle Wyman. Second place today goes to Troy Herfoss. Troy, we didn't get to talk to you yesterday about what happened, but I think you're probably feeling quite a bit better. A big smile on your face right now. Take us through those last laps.
What happened? I knew from the very first moment I was not in the race, so I put myself in a position to lead the race and control it. I worked out my best option for the finish and executed that, and it wasn't good enough. So we'll work harder. But hey, Daytona's Daytona. I was really angry this time last year when this happened in one of the races, and then I realised that, yeah, we're going to some tracks where the bikes work a lot differently. And yeah, things are more in my control when we leave here. But hey, a huge credit to the Indian motorcycle team. Such an amazing job they've done this weekend. We've got a lot more fans here this year, which is really good. Last year, I was sort of meeting a few new people. This year, I see so many Indian shirts in the stands. I can hear myself speak this year, so it's hopefully Indian motorcycles are on the way back. And hey, it's a long championship. It was a really enjoyable race, so looking forward to the next one.
Congratulations to Troy Herfoss, your defending champion. Rounding out your podium, and a first podium appearance from Loris Baz in 3rd place. Baz, after yesterday not really having the opportunity to prove what you were capable of, your first time out on the Factory Indian, take us through this race.
Well, it was a better one than yesterday. I had fun there. We had some issue after yesterday. I didn't feel as comfortable on the bike. You know, I was struggling a lot in the banking to bend my elbow, but I want to thank the doctor, Carl. He did a good job with the stitches on my elbow. It was a big one yesterday, so not how we wanted to start, but big thanks to all the Indian motorcycle crew, and they worked all night to give me a new bike for today. And yeah, it's not how we want to start, but congrats to Troy, congrats to Kyle. I had some struggling with some electronic on the banking today, and I could not really fight them, even if they were playing in the last lap. I was hoping, but I just didn't have enough top speed at the end. But yeah, really happy. When I woke up this morning, I was really not sure I could ride. So just massive thanks to all the Indian motorcycle wrecking crew, and that's just the beginning.
A podium for Loris Baz at Daytona, a track that he has always wanted to race, with stitches in his arm, you guys.
A look at the point standings after 2 races, and Kyle Wyman with a perfect 50. Troy Herfoss with 22 adrift, and Bradley Smith after that podium yesterday and his get off today, 24 points back. So Kyle Wyman early on in this 14 race championship has a bit of a lead, but there's still a ton of racing remaining in this season. Well, that'll do it for our racing here during the Daytona 200 entire weekend. We certainly hope you enjoyed it. For the entire crew, we'll see you next time.